We know that the need for justice is real. We know that every face in prison has a story, has people who love them and care for them, and we look for justice.
Personal story, my family. My grandmother was murdered by her grandson. Had the death penalty been enacted, we would not have had the opportunity for forgiveness and reconciliation.
The majority of those on death row are poor, powerless, and educationally deprived, and almost 50%, if not more, are people of color. And we understand that it is a weighted system that is unjust oftentimes.
Taking a life, whether on the streets or in the courtroom, both are a part of the same cycle of violence.
Call for an end to the death penalty in the state of Oregon. Now is the time. It's an honor to be with you this evening, and I want to thank each and every one of you for the ways in which you live out your faith in your everyday life. On May 2nd, 2013, the Maryland State Legislature voted to abolish the death penalty. In doing so, they became the 6th state in 6 years and the 18th in the country to eliminate capital punishment. The decision was the result of work by a broad faith coalition, including many United Church of Christ congregations and the Central Atlantic Conference. The polity of the United Church of Christ is based on local church autonomy. Our national biannual meeting, the General Synod, and the annual meetings of our regional conferences speak prophetically to our local churches, but don't speak for our local churches. The national setting of the United Church of Christ historically has opposed capital punishment. This opposition is briefly described on our website. We first formalized this position in 1969 and have reaffirmed it many times in the years since. In 2005, our General Synod passed a resolution calling for the common good as a foundational idea in the United States. We simply believe that murder is wrong, whether committed by individuals or by the state. Currently, our churches are working for the abolition of the death penalty. In addition for calling to an end to capital punishment, the General Synod has consistently called for the reform of the justice system, noting race and class bias in arrests and in sentencing. I serve as conference minister of the Central Pacific Conference of the United Church of Christ, which includes 47 congregations, 9 in southern Idaho, 2 in southern Washington, and 36 churches in the state of Oregon. Our conference has a 25-year history of support to abolish the death penalty in Oregon. In declaring their opposition to the death penalty, delegates to our annual meeting in May of 1988 affirmed support for the General Synod pronouncements and declared that our faith calls us to redemptive love, to mercy, and to honor the sanctity of life. The resolution commended this issue to the churches of the Central Pacific Conference for their prayerful consideration and committed the conference to join the Oregon Coalition to abolish the death penalty and its counterparts in Idaho and in Washington state. Jesus speaks against the desire for retaliation and calls on us to face hatred with love. In the Sermon on the Mount, he says, "You've heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy, but I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." Jesus calls on us to extend forgiveness and to work for reconciliation. When the justice system offers the death penalty as punishment, the desire for vengeance is fed and hatred is nurtured. As followers of Jesus, we call instead for love, for forgiveness, for reconciliation. As people of faith, the United Church of Christ and the Central Pacific Conference call for an end to the death penalty in the state of Oregon. Now is the time.
Develop love and understanding for ourselves and deeply understand those who are closest to us, then we can share these qualities with others. And rather than seek vengeance, seek true justice, a justice of compassion.
When Jesus said, love your enemies, I think he probably meant don't kill them.
We believe that the good news of Jesus Christ teaches redemption and forgiveness and rehabilitation, and the death penalty eliminates that forever.
And noted that the use of the death penalty tends to brutalize the society that condones it.
And Israel has never executed a single terrorist, a single cold-blooded killer, though there have been enormous pressures to do so. Capital punishment in Israel has been used only once for Adolf Eichmann and remains on the books for convicted Nazi criminals alone.
Capital punishment is an expression of vengeance which contradicts the justice of God.
We now have a plan to repeal the death penalty in Oregon. In 2015, we will pursue an issue to get on the ballot in November of 2016. It's up to all of us to speak up and get out there and send the message. We will get rid of the death penalty in Oregon.